I've been talking about making this video for so long. I think since the spring, the whole summer has passed and I still haven't made this video because I haven't decluttered my plants. But I have a day off today and I've decided I'm going to challenge myself to get rid of 20 plants. And it has to be today because I have to bring it to Charmaine's house because her mom is actually here visiting, but she's going back tomorrow and I want her to be able to pick through some plants. I'm not 100% sure which plants I'm going to be getting rid of today. I definitely have a few in mind and some of them are like just straight trash. They're going in the compost. But the plan is at least I'm going to get rid of 20 plants. If it's 30, great. But I'm not gonna stop filming until we reach that magical 20 number. So the plan today is I'm gonna be going around and just grabbing plants. I will show you some of them I've already decided I'm getting rid of. Some of them I might be deciding like on camera whether to get rid of them, and then I'm gonna put them all in the hallway in a bin, and then I'm gonna drive it out to Charmaine's house later tonight. I've also already filled up an entire giant bin full of pots that I no longer use. So there are a lot of orchid pots in there with like tons of holes on the sides. I don't ever plan on using them again. I have a lot of like ceramic cover pots that just don't fit my aesthetic. I've collected them throughout the years and I thought they were cute, but realistically, I'm never gonna use them again. Maybe about 2 years ago, I started to grow all my plants in clear vessels and clear pots. And since then, I just haven't stopped. So at this point, there's probably not going to be a change to what I grow my plants in. Like the size of my collection means that clear pots are really, really useful for me to be able to just determine at a glance like root health and moisture in the substrate, and they all kind of just match anyways. So I'm getting rid of a lot of plants, not plants. I am getting rid of a lot of plants. I'm getting rid of a lot of pots that are like decorative, colorful, terracotta. Don't use those anymore. So that's already been done off camera. So today's video is going to be just showing you the plants I'm getting rid of or deciding on camera what I'm getting rid of. I'm gonna feel a lot better for it. I think it's gonna be pretty tiring of a video to make, but honestly, I need to do this. And like, if you can see behind me, there's 2 exos. So you've got my original exo here, which is, let me remember the dimensions. It's 18 wide, 36 high, and 18 deep. So that one is kind of already set up. This one, however, the 36 by 36 by 18 is just kind of just has some plants shoved inside and they're not on risers. I want to get like a grid background on there so that plants can hang. Down here, I'm gonna tilt the camera down. We have open shelving down here with a lot of plants that a lot of these used to be living in exos and are struggling a little bit, and some of these are newer acquisitions. Some of these are newer acquisitions that have been living out in room humidity and doing fine. But not all of these are plants I want to continue growing here. So basically, in order for me to be able to set up my growing spaces the way I want with the plants that I want to grow there, I need to get rid of everything, get rid of all like the riffraff so that I can just enjoy growing plants again. Not that I haven't been enjoying growing plants, but it's definitely taken over my life in a way that is stressing me out. It's so easy to forget as a collector that our collections are there to make us happy, and it's not just about us making them happy. And it's a two-way street. It's not just us trying to make the plants happy despite them, you know, not bringing us joy. So that's something, at least for me, that's really hard to remember sometimes. Like, if a plant doesn't make me happy because it's not growing well, if it's because it doesn't make me happy that I'm neglecting it and it's not growing well, then like I should just not have it in my collection anymore, and I don't need to feel so much guilt over it. So many people go through periods of times with their lives when they can't keep up with plant care, whether it be that they're really busy with work, which is like my situation, or they fall out of love with plants, or, you know, their mental health doesn't allow them to invest all the mental energy and time and physical labor in caring for their plants. There shouldn't be so much guilt attached to seeing plants decline and so on. So There's definitely been plants in my collection that have taken the dive because I haven't been able to get to repotting. I haven't been able to get to watering. I haven't been able to put them on poles, or I haven't been able to keep those poles wet. There are plants that I'm willing to rehab back because I do love them, even though they're not doing well. But there are also plants that aren't doing well that I have no intention of investing that time in. I hope this all makes sense. So anyway, I have plants back here. I have a few plants downstairs. I have plants behind the camera here. I have plants in the tent. I'll probably be moving around the room a little bit. I'll bring plants up to the camera to show you, and then I'm gonna just shove them out here ready to cart to Charmaine's. I think I already said that. And I'm just, all in all, it's gonna be a tiring day, but I'm excited for some empty space, really, in this room, like in my house even. I think any place that has light has ended up with a plant on that surface. And I've just gotten so used to it, like my eyes have gotten so used to seeing plants everywhere that I'm not seeing the clutter anymore, which is not something I want for my home, is just stuff everywhere, and plants being one of them. So if it's a plant that brings me a lot of joy and I have like a really, I don't know, a place in my heart for it, then of course I'd want to keep it there. But ones that just are simply taking up space and I'm not doing any good for it, there's no point in having it in my house. So by the time you're seeing this video, the plants will already be out of my house. So if, you know, it's a plant that you're interested in, I'm sorry, it's already gone. The majority of them are gonna go to Charmaine's, and like if her mom doesn't want to take them or she doesn't want to take them, then they're gonna be kind of given to her neighbors for free. And then some of them are simply just going in the compost because they are in such a state that they're not worth rehabbing. So yeah. I hope you enjoy seeing some really ugly plants, and this has been a really highly requested video, or a highly encouraged video, I should say. I think a lot of you like to see the ugly plants in my collection, but also I think a lot of you like to see, you know, things getting a refresh, and you probably know that it's really good for me to get rid of some parts of my collection that just take up a lot of time and space, because as much as I say, like, I'm really busy, so these plants are getting neglected, like, realistically, that's not gonna change in the foreseeable future. This is just how busy I am gonna be, and I have to kind of like come to terms with that and realize that, like, this is not just a passing phase. I'm gonna be just really busy. Like, do I want to have a job that takes over my entire life? No. But do I see it changing for me anytime soon? Also no. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. I don't know where this is gonna take me, but I'll try to keep a little tally of how many plants we're accumulating so far, and let's just get started. But first I need some coffee. Okay, I think I'm gonna run out of space in this room really quickly. I've already found 4. I said that I'm done with Scindapsus multiple times. I'm not collecting Scindapsus anymore. No matter how beautiful they are, no matter how tempting, these beautiful new like cultivars that are coming out of Indonesia, nope, not doing it. They don't grow well for me. They get leggy, they throw out runners. I don't like them enough to give them that prime real estate in my tent and grow them up poles and do that moss pole maintenance for them. They grow kind of fast when they're happy, but for me, they throw out runners, they grow leggy because I don't give them those conditions, and I have a pretty dark house, so I like to see Scindapsus trail. So the shelves that I have them on, they just grow so incredibly ugly. So I am done growing them, and I want to eventually get rid of all of them. Currently, I still have a couple downstairs that I'm having a hard time letting go of, and that's my Scindapsus Jade Satin and the Silver Cloud. I find those to be really pretty. Neither of them are growing that well. They are kind of leggy, but I'm not quite ready to get rid of them yet. But these two, hold on, they're all tangled up. This one is my Scindapsus Trubii Moonlight. I've held on to this one for quite a long time because this is one of the first trades I ever did with Charmaine. So it was grown from a single leaf, and I've chopped it like, I don't know, 5 times already. And it's not growing horribly, but I have very little space on my shelves, and I don't want to see those shelves as full as I used to have them. And I just don't want to spend all my time watering these because these are in pond and they grow a lot better in pond in my experience versus soil or soil. I just don't think I'm gonna keep this one. So this one's gonna be going to the donation pile. This one is a little bit sad. This one is my Silvery Ann. It's quite long now. This one grows next to my TV, and I used to have it growing in a pot. It was growing really nicely and it was like trailing nicely, and then the leaves were not like kind of all over the place, growing in all different directions. But then one time Huxley pulled this off of that shelf and it was like all over the floor, and I repotted it and never looked the same since. But that's not really the reason why it's sad. I think this is sad because this is like one of the older plants in my collection. It hasn't grown a lot, but when I got this one, it was like the last straggly one at the nursery, and I was like really happy to find it. But honestly, it doesn't bring me any joy other than like that sentimental value attached to it, and I don't think that it would ever grow in a way that is like really, you know, satisfying for me. It just doesn't physically like and aesthetically look, I don't know, it just doesn't do anything for me anymore. It's just like I feel a little bit sad letting go of it. All the plants that in my collection that I've had for a really long time, especially at a time of my life when like my collection was really small and like there were a few plants in my collection, I feel sad about letting them go. But I think it's time. I think I need that physical space and that mental space more than the sentimental and old plants in my collection. So these two are gonna go. I'll keep the pots, I think. I'll definitely keep this pot because I do have some black pots out. I don't know about this one. Just an IKEA pot, but yeah, those are the first ones. I don't want to linger too long on them because we have a lot of plants to get through. This one this is like light as air. I haven't been watering it on time, but honestly, if I were to keep this plant hydrated, I'd need to water it like every 5 days because I have it potted in too chunky of a soil. But that's besides the point. This is a reverted Albo Monstera. It's grown from a node, and that node is so shriveled up, you won't be able to tell, but it used to have white variegation in it. And then near to the bottom of this new axillary bud growth, there was white, but it's never produced a variegated leaf. And I just kept growing it for no real reason. I was always planning to get rid of it and I just never did. So this will be for Charmaine's neighbors to pick through, or maybe it'll just go into the compost. It's definitely salvageable. Like if I were to water this now, by tomorrow it'll be perked up again. I much prefer large form Deliciosa anyways, so this is obviously a small form one. I have no intention of getting this on a pole and growing it to maturity, so goodbye. This one is once upon a time a plant that I really love. This is Hoya sigillatus. I purchased this a couple of years ago, and this is one of the first Hoyas in my collection, and I thought they were so cute with that silver splashing. And when I originally got the plant, the original leaves are like very thick, so you can see right now they're kind of thin, right? Like there's just not a lot of like there's not a lot of thickness to them, and they just don't have the girth. This was not the plant that I thought it was, and I could never grow those like thick succulent leaves from them again. Like they were almost, I don't know how to describe them. They were almost like not quite as thick, but like with the girth of like a succulent leaf. And this grows quite fast for a Hoya, and I enjoyed that for a while, but I stopped liking it so much, and I stopped giving it the light it needed, and I stopped watering it, hence the leaves falling off. So I don't actually even know if this is worth saving, but that's also gonna go. I also don't know if I'll keep the pot, but maybe I will for like a succulent or something. So that is the only Hoya I'm getting rid of, I think. This is the only Hoya I definitely know I'm gonna get rid of. I might find another one, but I think I still really love all my Hoyas, so I don't plan on getting rid of the other ones, but this one is for sure one that it doesn't do anything for me anymore. Okay, so this next one I've already talked about getting rid of. This was an imported Gloriosum, the Gloriosum Verde. This is the new leaf that was coming in when I filmed that video. It's really cute. So I think this is definitely going to be one that Charmaine's mom will take. Although I'm having second thoughts of getting rid of the entire thing. But I'm also like, so here's my thought process. I was going to just cut off the top of it and grow this one big because this one came in so nice, and I thought like, oh, like maybe I do like this plant, maybe I do want to grow it, but I have so many Gloriosum, and the white veins or dark form ones bring me so much more joy than this Verde one does. Let me show you a really cute Gloriosum leaf just for comparison. So I'm gonna try to balance these. That's the Verde. This is one of my white veins Gloriosums. So this one here, this is my oldest Gloriosum. Like I've had this plant the longest. This is a cutting that has been growing out, so it's still quite small, but this is the kind of Gloriosum that brings me so much joy. This is my Gloriosum that has like very bleedy veins. You can see that the veins just really bleed out, and like it has this like feathering to them. It's so bright and contrasty, and the foliage is quite a bit darker, like even compared to the hardened leaves. Like look at that color difference. I just love these so much more, and I do really enjoy like large heart leaves, and especially like velvety heart leaves. I don't think that I need this one because I have multiples of these kinds. So I call this one my Gloriosum. Right? I found that these ones stay much darker and they don't burn quite so much as like the ones that I've gotten from Equigenera or Equiflora. So before I started filming this video, I did consider cutting the top of this one off. Like the internodes are pretty tight on it, but I was going to cut it like right here and then isolate like the top. It would have been these two leaves, like the two leaves grown in my care. But that's just like another propagation I need space for. So I'm gonna cut myself off. I'm gonna be strong. I'm gonna get rid of the entire plant. I know there was some interest in this plant, but I can't deal with the additional stress of selling plants right now. I used to sell a lot more plants like back in 2020, early 2021. And obviously back then, the prices of plants were a lot higher, so it did motivate me, but it always stressed me out so much because there's obviously like this element of customer service involved, which, you know, I take very seriously, but also I just don't want to feel like I feel so much anxiety over like, is this plant surviving? Like, is it like, you know, do they think I'm a scammer because like they did a decline in their care and then they're like, oh, gave me a plant with bad roots or whatever. So it stresses me out too much, and I don't want to sell plants if I can get away with it. So I'd rather just give it to someone and then they have no expectations of that plant whatsoever. So this is gonna go to Charmaine's house, and if her mom decides to keep it and grow it large, which I know she can, I would be very happy. This one is also going to Charmaine. This one is the Philodendron Dean McDowell. So little backstory about this plant. This was the first plant that Charmaine ever gave me. At the time, like I barely knew her. It was just an incredibly generous and like thoughtful and sweet gift. I had met her a few months before that. We had done a trade, and then I think it was like around my birthday she had found this plant for me, and at the time it was like my top wish list plant. This was like early 2020. I just fell in love with these like big pillowy leaves, and there was one shop in Vancouver that had released some, and obviously like the scramble to get them was like so insane, and I didn't make it, so I didn't get one. I was really sad. So she had found one for me from a friend of hers and got me this plant, and I've grown this. I've cut it a few times. This is the top cutting of the plant, so it's a little bit small. I've never been able to grow this plant huge. I've always been growing it in like a greenhouse, and I actually am finding lately that my Dean McDowells do a little bit better outside of the greenhouse, like at least for me. So this one has been growing and rooting outside of a greenhouse. This one's actually been rooting really well outside of the greenhouse, and it's put out a couple of leaves. So there's this one, which has fully hardened, and then this one just unfurled. So this one's looking like it's gonna be really cute and pillowy. And also Charmaine's McDowells are not doing really well right now. I think they got hit with a spider mite outbreak pretty badly, so they're all kind of stumps or like super juvenile. So I think she'll be happy to have this one. So this is gonna go to her, I think. But if she decides she doesn't want it and she doesn't have space for it, I'm sure her mom will take it as well. So that one is going as well. Where are we at now? 7 plants so far. Woohoo! Okay, this next one, I don't know if I've ever really shown it on my channel, maybe just like briefly. This cutie pie is possibly a Philodendron tenu. There's really no way of knowing at this point. This was purchased as an Esmeraldense, and it was purchased from a local seller here in Vancouver, which in my experience is not really good at getting the right ID on his plants. When I first bought this plant, it was the product photo was really dark and it was really hard to see the defining features of the plant. So I just trusted that it was an Esmeraldense, and it it's obviously not. Even as a dried up wilty plant, you can tell that it's not an Esmeraldense. It looks a lot like a tenu, but there's some features of it that just don't look quite the same, so it's kind of like a tenu type, if you will. It's on a shitty moss pole, the kind that aren't allowed in this house anymore, so I desperately want to get rid of this moss pole. I want to salvage the bamboo stick that's inside. This plant it's dunzos, I think. Like, look at the stem. The stem is so shriveled up that I don't think it's worth trying to salvage. Charmaine has a piece of this plant. I'm sure she's holding on to it because she feels bad because I gave that to her, but Charmaine, if you want to get rid of that plant, you have my blessing. This thing is going into the compost. It's literally like, it weighs nothing, but I get to keep the black pot, so that's good. I think this next one is a Philodendron Peltatum. Whether that is a valid ID, I'm not really sure. This is similar to like a pasta silver, similar to what they used to sell as Soderoy Af. Like, it has the silveriness and it has a mostly round petiole. Some of them have more of like a D-shaped petiole, but no frills or anything. It's not like a mame or plummonii. And it has often a red sinus when the leaves come in. But this one was a cutting off Charmaine's plant. I have another one though. So this one is also a Peltatum, or whatever the correct ID is. This one was a accidental cutting from Jing. So she was chopping her plant. I don't know what happened, but somehow she just cut the caterpillar off with no leaf attached to it. Like, I think she meant to cut the top leaf plus the caterpillar, but I don't know, like her eyes slipped and she just cut the caterpillar off. So she's like, I don't know if this is gonna survive. It was an orange caterpillar with a little bit of stem, some aerial roots, and she gave that to me. And we called it Olaf because it looked like a carrot sticking out of the ground. And it actually grew, so it took a really, really long time. It died back. Oh, like that entire caterpillar and the leaf inside it was gone. And I honestly didn't think it was gonna make it, but it grew into a plant. So I don't need both of these. So I think what I'll do is I'll give this one to Charmaine, and if she wants to keep it, she can keep it. I don't think she's gonna wanna keep it, so that one's gonna go, and I'll keep Olaf because it has a little funny little story, and it would actually be more sad for me to get rid of Olaf because he's kind of a miracle. So I'm gonna actually get him out of the moss that he's in and try to grow him proper. So gonna keep this one, gonna get rid of this one. Okay, this next plant is a plant that I actually really, really love, but I don't need this propagation of. This is Philodendron Rurocinctum Platinum. So this was the bottom chunk cutting off of my main plant. And I've been keeping it around because it obviously, A, it hadn't grown yet, and B, my mother plant wasn't doing so well. It had been transferred from moss to pon, and it was struggling with the transition, and I thought I might lose the plant, so I was keeping this around, but the mother plant is now growing again, thank God, so I can, you know, donate or give away this plant at this point. It's so cute, this like silvery sheen. I was not expecting for the first leaf from this propagation to look this cute, but it's looking super cute. I feel like Charmaine's mom will like this plant. I don't know if she has one yet, or maybe one of her friends will want it, or maybe Charmaine's sister will want it, but yeah, I'll get rid of this one. I'll have more space in my prop box now for like anthurium seedlings and stuff. So you're really cute, but you're gonna go. So this one, even though it's like thriving and beautiful and like worthy of display in a conservatory, I just don't think it's doing anything for me anymore. This one is my Begonia Gray Feather. I bought it from a garden center here in Vancouver, and I thought it was pretty. It had like almost like a buttery, almost velvety leaf, and it had like silvery veins and a pinkish abaxial. I don't know, I never really loved it the way I thought I would, so I let it die. And I honestly did water it, but I also set this begonia up in too well draining of a mix in a pot with side slits and drainage holes, so I'm not gonna do that anymore with begonias. But this one, I have no intention of reviving from the dead. I feel like I could, like this bottom stem is salvageable. I could probably cut all this off and get it into like a wetter mix and higher humidity and maybe no drainage. It might even like pond, but I don't really intend to put any effort in with this plant because I just didn't like it the way I thought I would. And even when it was like really, really healthy and growing nicely, just, I don't know, yeah, I don't really have many words for it. So this one will be compost. Another begonia. This one is a begonia. All I know is that it's called Benigo Pink, but I don't know if there's like a fuller name for it. This one is a Lowe's find, I think. It was a cutting that I got from Jing. Actually, it was growing quite well. The bottom wasn't. It had grown a bunch of nice, full, large leaves at the top, really pink, really spotty, really pretty. And I cut those off and I rooted it, and then I just gave it to Charmaine, and then I kept like the leafless like stem, and it popped out all this foliage, and then I just slowly stopped watering it, and then now it looks like this. And I don't have, again, any intention of reviving it back because it grows too fast. It's one of those plants where they grow so fast, they need so much water, but when they decline, like you're starting off with this like leafless stem that's humongous and you don't know what to do with it. If it was a begonia that I really, really loved, like if it was a Sinbad, for example, I would definitely grow it back from a leafless stump. But this one doesn't really like make my heart do things the way that the Sinbad does. So this one is actually also going to go into the compost. And I get to have another glass pot, which I'll probably use for another anthurium. So I'm really excited to have another glass vessel because I'm running out of vessels like left, right, and center. So goodbye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this one is another Monstera. It's let me hold it in a way that's more comfortable. So this one is a Home Depot Monstera that I got years ago, and it never gets water, hence why it looks like this. It never gets much light, hence why it looks like this. I got this plant back when Monsteras weren't that common. So do you remember like a few years ago when like a Monstera would be like $300 and they were only available at like those like nice plant shops, and they weren't available in like Home Depot and stuff? So when they started to become available, I was really excited to get this, but I didn't really have the lighting requirements to make it happy, and it just never grew really well for me. And it's like a small form one. I just don't have again, the intention to glow this one back up. I have 2 large form deliciosas that I have much more time for, and slower growing for sure, but definitely a lot more pretty when they grow new foliage. And this one never really was happy with me, and it takes up so much space. It's next to my it grows next to my makeup table, and like this leaf is like just moving that all around, and it's always like on top of my makeup palettes, and then like it's in the way all the time. So I bring it no joy, and it brings me no joy, and I have a better plant I can put in its place. So this one will probably be compost. Don't be mad. I know it's savable, but it's probably gonna be compost, or I'll just, I don't know, message my neighbor to see if they want it. But honestly, I don't think anyone should take this plant. This is a really easy plant to find, and you know, I don't feel like I need to justify putting a plant in the compost that brings me no joy. It was my purchase, but And yeah, I feel like some people might get mad at me for putting a plant in the compost that is savable, but it's my life, so. Here's another compost plant. He's not dead, but he's not really alive either. This is a very difficult anthurium for me to grow. This is Anthurium waterburyanum, and he's been living in regular room conditions, and he used to live in an exo, and even in an exo, it would just brown off all the time. It would grow a new leaf and it would look really cute for about a week, and then the crisp would settle in. I think it's one of those plants that needs like 100% humidity and just like constantly like moist substrate. So I don't intend to give it that real estate in my tent. I don't like it enough, and I don't want to rehab this back from nothing. I know it's doable. Maybe I'll give this one to Charmaine. It's mom. I know Charmaine doesn't want it. Maybe her mom will want it. I don't know. This one is not an easy one, so I'm gonna just remove these leaves right now. The stem still feels fine, and I'm sure that there are live roots in here. Like, I didn't let the substrate dry out. I just gave it regular room conditions and it decided it wanted to die. Yeah, it looks like the growth point is also dried out. So at worst, Charmaine has a nice jing pot to use. At best, her mom will take the plant. Okay, quick break because I think my camera is gonna overheat. Okay, quick change of scenery here. We're now in front of the tent. I have some plants in here that I want to pull out because they get forgotten about a lot in the back and they don't grow that much, but also they get forgotten about because I don't care for them that much. So we're gonna pull those out to free up some space for some other plants in the tent, because like tent life is really like precious for my plants that I really want to grow really nicely in like optimal conditions. I don't want to waste that tent space on plants that don't do anything for me, so I only want to grow plants like I really love in the tent. So first, I have a few plants around the room that I forgot to show. I've been toying with getting rid of my clarinervium for quite some time. I find this to be one of the hardest anthuriums to grow, and I don't know why everyone says it's so easy, and I know it actually, like, they're not lying. I know they find it easy. I think my boyfriend just got home. But it's not easy. It's like, what is this? This looks like fungal issues that like took over the plant, and yet this one lives like outside of a greenhouse, just like right here, and it has like lots of airflow. It gets like some light, not a crazy amount of light, but as much light as I feel like other people have. Like I've seen my friends grow and theirs are doing a lot better. It's living in pond, and it put out this leaf fairly recently. I don't think I want to continue growing this plant. It's not very rewarding. They're also like in Home Depot now, so if I wanted to replace it, I could. Yeah, it's no. And plus, I want this vessel for something else, so I'm gonna get this into like maybe a plastic cup or something before I give it to Charmaine. Should I get rid of it? Yeah, I think I've struggled enough with this plant, and I don't have the motivation to try any harder than I already have. I know I could probably try harder, but I don't intend to try harder. So clarinervium's going to. So this one is a Alocasia amazonica that has also suffered from underwatering. I got this one from Erin when she was also decluttering, and she didn't want to keep this one anymore, and I thought maybe I'll just take it and see if my boyfriend likes it, because at the time he was looking for this plant. Hold on. At the time he was in search of this Alocasia, the Sanderiana nobilis, and I was convinced that I was never gonna find it because I'd never seen it for sale. So I was like, why don't I get this one and see if like this will, you know, satisfy that itch? But it didn't. He had no reaction to this plant, and I didn't want it personally. So now that I have this one, I don't need to keep this one. But I feel like this might be a plant that like Charmaine's neighbors might take if I just put it into like a bigger pot, because right now like so much of the rhizome is exposed, and like I don't know, it just doesn't get as much water as it needs to. It could root all along this stem here. So I'm gonna pull these off before I give it away. So yeah, it's gonna be a little 2-leafer guy, but this one is gonna go. Unfortunately, this is the only leaf that grew in my care. This one here. I just don't think that I need him. I'm sure that Erin would give her blessing for me to like donate or give away this plant because she had no intention to keep it either. It's not like she really loved the plant and gave it to me like, take care of it for me and foster it. Like she was just gonna throw it out. So on to the next owner, another alocasia. So I need to get comfortable here. No, that's too high. So this one is an Alocasia Maharani. It's not doing so good. This one is like upside down. It's super dry. I think there's some healthy root in here. And I can see some healthy root in here. Oh no. Okay, I had 2 of them in there and look at this one. It's absolutely hollow. Perfect. I'm just throwing stuff on the floor at this point. I'll just do a big vacuum. So there's one live one in here now. I just pulled off a dead leaf. I'm trying to fish out the rhizomes so it's not so much dead matter in here. Okay, so there was 2 in this pot. There was one that I had gotten from Charmaine as like a little sprouted corm from her mother plant. And then there was one that I had taken from Jing because she had trouble growing it. She was like, can you just take it and just get, I don't know, get it out of my house. So I was like, yeah, well, no, I'll just grow it for you. And I had a lot more space then, or so I thought. So I grew it and then it was growing pretty well for a while. And then I stopped kind of like caring for it. It was in soil and then I moved it to pond and it seemed to grow a little bit faster, but then I just kept like not watering it. So this is what we're left with. Honestly, these plants are so easy to find now that I think this is also gonna go in the compost because I kind of want to keep this jar for something else. Like this would be good for like a larger pond plant, and I have all this plant that I can sterilize and use again, so it's kind of wasted on this plant that really does nothing for me. I'd much rather just grow the variegated Friedex, so that's another one. I don't know what the count is right now for plants, so I'm just gonna keep pulling. And I don't know if these count because I thought they were alive, but they're not. I think this was a melanochrysum. I'm almost certain this was a melanochrysum that wasn't doing anything. And melanos are a plant that I find quite difficult to grow. I do have a larger one. Some of you might have watched my like most difficult houseplants video. The one that was in that video, I had like chopped that entire like leafless, almost like runner-esque thing off the top. And then I put it into a lazy pole and I'm keeping it in my living room at this point because Lauren, North Shore Tropicals, told me that hers do way better out in like regular conditions. So I listened to her. It's kind of coming back, at least it's growing. It's not growing amazingly, but in here in my tent, it wasn't growing at all. So that's like as much melanochrysum as I need in my life. So I was planning on throwing this one out, but I don't know if this counts because it's not even alive anyways. So there's that one. And then I have also another plant that I guess is technically alive, but not really. These were fished out from like the very back of my tent shelf. They don't get tons of light, so they don't grow that fast, but they also don't take up water that fast. Even then, somehow I've underwatered them. I don't know if you can see. This was some sort of like, this was sold to me as Plumanii from Ecogenera. It's a climber. This one always kind of puzzled me. It wasn't super frilly either. I haven't cared about this plant for well over a year and somehow I've kept it alive up until now, and now it's dead or just about dead. So say goodbye to this cutie pie. I think this was Tenyu. Hold on, wait, I'm confused. I don't remember which one's which. So one of these is the same like Tenyu type thing that I showed earlier, a propagation of that. I want to say it's this one. And then this one I think was the actual Philodendron Tenyu that I got from Charmaine. Charmaine, if you're watching this, I am so sorry, but I think this one's dead or like beyond saving. So this one, if it had been just like a plant I'd purchased, it would have been long gone, but I feel bad about this one. Let's see. The stem feels, I mean, there's a lot of like husk and caterpillar around it, but it feels like really shriveled. Like there's like a spongy squish to them. I don't think this is salvageable. I think this has to also go in the compost. I don't, do those count? Do those count as one? I don't know. One that was 4. It is decluttering because I freed up a bunch of space in there. Okay, I just had to switch the angle up because I was not comfortable. Hold on. That's a little bit better. Okay, this next one is an Anthurium regale. This one just is much more difficult for me to keep from like crisping and dying back compared to like my other velvety anthuriums. There's a specific clone of regale that I really like that's like very, very veiny and like with a very wide sinus. This was never one of them, and like I just don't think that it's a plant that is worth keeping for me. Even if it was doing well, I don't think that it's gonna be the kind of plant that I want. There are certain anthuriums that do much more for me aesthetically, like crystallinums. Let me show you if I can get it out of here. Okay, so even though it looks like a helicopter right now, this is my crystallinum black, as they call it, like a very dark crystallinum. This one is so much more up my alley and it grows so much better for me. Like I don't give this tons of light, so that's why it's like basically a helicopter, and it takes up so much horizontal space, and yet it doesn't bother me because I really, really like this plant. It's so beautiful, and I think in the winter it might actually be thriving a little bit more because I think these do really, really well with the temperature drop at night. Like if I give the same care to regale, it doesn't respond the same, and they grow so slow. And again, if it wasn't for that very, very veiny wide sinus clone of regale, like I wouldn't really care much for regales, and that specific clone is actually kind of hard to find for me. I haven't come across one, so yeah, I think I'm gonna get rid of all my regales. I think I might have this one and a prop. I might keep the prop just in case. That one was also from Erin, and that clone is really cool. It's not quite the same as the one I really, really like, but I do like that one more than this clone of regale. So I have a lot more time and mental like TLC energy for like anthuriums like this. And of course, like I have so many like little seedlings that I'm like really excited about, and I'd much rather put my time and energy into caring for those. So I don't know why I'm just holding this one up. This one is gonna go in the donations. Some of you have been wanting to see all my forgetti-eyes. I mentioned in a video, was it my video or Charmaine's video? I think it was my video. Yeah, like my tortilla slap video, that I had 24 forgetti-eyes. So not all 24 of them were like individually purchased. These are my forgetti-eye seedlings. So these were grown from seed. I'm about to show you the mother plant, but my plant was the mother plant, and the pollen donor was my friend JR's forgetti-eye. It was like a dark form, like legit dark form with no silver veining. Like it has that limey green venation. It produced berries, and then we split it in half. So my half had 17 forgetti-eyes, and they're not growing as big as they should because they're in like the tiniest little like seedling tray pots that I've been meaning to get out of moss for the longest time and just kind of grow them separately, because this is probably the most mature one right here. And it's tiny, it's teeny, teeny, tiny. So I'm obviously not gonna keep all 17 of these seedlings, but I think that won't be for today's declutter. I need to kind of repot them and kind of look at them closely and isolate the ones that I want to keep if there's any like showing interesting characteristics. I don't think any of them are, but in case there are, I'd like to separate them out. But those are 17 out of the 24 forgetti-eyes. But the 2 mother plants, I think I'm gonna get rid of one of them. They're kind of small. When I had gotten this plant, it was maybe only a few weeks in from import, and it was already in flower when I got it. And so I was like, might as well try pollinating it, and it worked. But it was a young plant, plus it produced berries, so it was like very, very severely like underdeveloped, just tiny plant. So the mother plant grew this offset, so that was another reason why it was like growing so tiny, is because it had so many growth points. I separated that, and I'm growing one separately. So this is one of them from the mother plant, and then this is the other one. This one's actually growing a lot nicer. So this is the biggest leaf. Let me show you with my hand. It's about this size, and I think it's pretty cute. I think, well, I'm definitely gonna keep it because it's the mother plant of my seedlings. I feel like we have this bond now. So when I got this plant, I had no silver at all. It was like all dark green, and the light is definitely washing it out. Like if I pull it back here, you're gonna be able to see the true color a little bit better. So I actually really enjoy this forgetti-eye, but I don't need 2 of them. This is a clone of this one, so I will give this one, maybe Charmaine will want it, maybe her mom will want it. I don't think Charmaine has enough Forgetii. Oh my goodness, now that I look at it, it's so cute. Look how perfect the shape is on this leaf. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Charmaine ends up keeping this for herself. That is freaking adorable. I definitely have not been paying enough attention to these plants because they're actually way cuter than I thought they would be. So this one will go. Another one I just found is this Alocasia Maharani. This was grown from a corm. I have another plant. I don't remember, maybe, I'm trying to remember because my plant is not mature enough to produce corms. I don't remember harvesting a corm, so maybe someone else gave me a corm, but I have a little bit bigger of a plant downstairs. This one I recently got transplanted into pond. It was growing in moss and it was consistently drying out as moss plants do, so I don't need this one. So this one's also going to go in donation. We have 22 plants already. This is thrilling. What else can I get rid of? So this one is a plant that hasn't gotten the best care from me in terms of like watering. I don't know, like I had this in like a prop box kind of exo situation, like a really low exo with bright light for little tiny plants. And then I got rid of that exo. I had that exo on a shelf that was like always had things in front of it, so I never could get that close to the exo to really like inspect the plants and just check on them and water them and etc, etc. So this one definitely got some neglect. This one is a Parasitica Heartleaf Splash. Yeah, that's what it looks like. I don't think that this is a Hoya that was ever like on a wish list of mine or anything, but I just don't know if I like this Hoya that much. So I think this would definitely be more appreciated in someone else's collection, someone who enjoys like round small leaves, because I much prefer the very ugly Hoyas or the variegated Hoyas. Well, actually not even all variegated Hoyas. I just like the veiny, ugly, reptilian, dumpstery Hoyas. Those are my favorite. This one is not like one that, you know, it's just not weird enough for me, I think. I like my Hoyas to have this like certain element of ugliness, and this one's just not ugly enough. So I think this one is gonna go in donation as well. I know Charmaine already has one. Maybe her mom wants it, because I know that she's growing her Hoya collection. It is, I know, fairly healthy, I want to say. So that's plant number 24, I think. This one's a little sad. This is a plant that I intend to keep, but this is an extra one. This is a Philodendron Burleymarks Fantasy that got severely dried out when I moved everything out of my exos and kept them like here. Like it was supposed to be temporary, but it wasn't. And then this one dried out a lot. Like it dried out to the point that the leaves all turned brown, which is saying a lot for this plant because this plant is like very forgiving. It just doesn't often show signs of thirst. So this must have been completely dried out for a really long time. It's definitely not beyond saving. So a lot of the leaves are completely dead. The vine is still fine, and the top is for sure still fine. Like the bigger leaf there's not much damage on it at all. And I think it's still actively growing. So I think what I would do is I'll get rid of everything but this. In fact, let's just do it right now. We're gonna cut the top off here. I don't think that it's worth keeping this stem, and this moss pole is garbage. It sucks. So I will get rid of the moss pole. I will cut it open and salvage whatever moss is in there. And then of course I'll keep the bamboo pole because that's useful. I'll probably keep the pot. But yeah, we'll start over with this. But luckily I have another Burleymarks Fantasy that somehow didn't dry out as much. I think purely because the pot it's in is a little bit bigger. So there was just a little bit more substrate to stay hydrated a little bit longer. So should I just pop this cutting into Charmaine's bin? Maybe? This one I totally forgot about. This one was supposed to go to Charmaine. This is a Mame Green, a Philodendron Mame Green. So it was doing really well in this tent and it got hit with like this fungal thing. I think there was some like fungal stuff that got really attracted to the EFN because it was producing a lot of EFN. The lower leaves weren't looking so good, so I chopped it. Here's the top cutting. It did not appreciate the repot, so this is the top. The leaf is still looking pretty good. If I feel the petiole, it still feels quite firm and perky, but the bottom, there was like 4 or 5 leaves on this and they've all fallen off. And it looks like all the roots have rotted. So the stem I'm sure is fine. Let me feel it. Yeah, the stem is fine. I think what I'll do is I'll put this in the bin, and if she doesn't want to keep it, then she can put it in her lobby and someone might take it. I might need to put a little note on it that says like rotted roots or something. I would definitely feel more comfortable if Charmaine's mom took this, because I know she knows what she's doing and she can reroot this. I don't think that it's worth getting all the rotted roots out, although I might do that when I finish filming, because I don't think that she's allowed to take anything that's like rooting medium across the border anyways. We'll see. It is a cute plant, but I don't know if like it's worth taking across the border. Yeah, this is what I'm left with. This is the like the top cutting. The leaf that was in the caterpillar died off, and it looks like it's working on another one, and it has started to root here. So once it's established, I find this one like quite easygoing, but it really did not like the repot. So this one is my Anthurium Dark Phoenix. It used to be such a pretty plant, but like the newest leaf is like so wonky. Like, I don't know why. I think it may be a CalMag thing, but look how asymmetrical it's growing. And like, I don't know, like I think it's time to say goodbye to this plant. Like, it's just not growing that well. Like, the roots are all green now, and like they have these like weird hairs on them. I don't like that. Like, I think it's about to die. So I'm gonna probably just put this one in the compost and like just say goodbye. I don't think that like there's anything I can do for this plant anymore. Just kidding. This one is here with me forever, but I did want to show this plant while I was growing this leaf, even though it's not a plant I'm getting rid of. But isn't that so weird? Even though it's so asymmetrical and wonky, it still looks really cute. Kind of looks like a comma. I'm a little bit puzzled. I do want to repot this because look how much stem is above the substrate right now, and there's like a root coming out here. Eventually it will probably grow into the pond, but I'm also hesitant to repot a plant while the leaf is still developing. So maybe after the next one. This one grows fairly steadily, so I don't think it'll be long before the next leaf, but it's a little bit sad to see a leaf so deformed. Amanda, if you're watching this, tell me what you think. What could this be? Do you think this is CalMag deficiency? I'm starting to feed this one with TPS1, which does contain calcium and magnesium, but I don't think in enough quantity to properly give it enough CalMag. So maybe I just also need to add more CalMag to the mix. Anyways, I don't know why I'm showing this plant. By the way, do you see this gloriosum leaf? This freshie, even from all the way back there, I'm sure you can see how veiny it is and how stripy. Oh, it's so nice. I stare at this leaf all the time, and this plant is way too big for this space now. I don't know how I'm gonna grow that plant. Like, every leaf is already like, okay, it's the last leaf, it's not gonna fit anymore, and it keeps growing a new leaf like here, but then the petiole moves towards the center. So it's like containing itself in this like little short space that it has, but it makes me want to keep it in here longer, but I know it can't stay in here forever. So now that I've cleared out some space on that like open shelving, there's gonna be space for gloriosum. I've also cleared up more space here next to my exo and on the other open shelf, which has space for another like lower light loving plant, like maybe another McDowell or SP Columbia maybe. That might be a good place for one. Let's do a final count. Let me take you off the tripod for this. All right, here is the shelf. It's not looking empty, but there are little bits of space. And this shelf here is much more empty. I have a few SP Columbias living in here. I can grow at least one out on this shelf because I don't think they need much light, and I think it would be nice to grow one out in regular conditions. And then let's do a final count. So don't mind him, this has a dead elbow. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then here on the floor, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, plus the Monstera in the hallway. So I've basically created so much work for myself, but all in the name of lessening the workload for me later on in the future. I'm actually really excited. I'm just seeing little pockets of empty space around the room, and it feels really nice because I don't want to immediately put another plant in that spot. I'm just gonna have some like empty space and like maybe other decor that aren't living plants that actually feel really nice. And I think I'll definitely be able to like put more time and energy into the plants I have left. I know this is not the end of my decluttering, but I've definitely got rid of some plants that are like I'm purposely let die. Oh, I just saw another one. Hold on. Okay, so you're not on a tripod right now, so I'm gonna try to hold this as stable as I can. This is another large form Monstera. I think I'll give this to Charmaine's mom. I don't know if she'll want it, but this is the bottom cutting of a yellow variegated Monstera, the one that I showed in my August favorites, the yellow, what they call yellow tie constellation. It's that messed up TC tie constellation that turned yellow and it's really marbly. So this is the bottom cut. There is still some variegation in the like lower part of the stems, but it's never grown a variegated leaf. But I think it's probably worth a try for someone who has space to experiment with it. So that's brings our count to 26 plants. I don't remember what I was talking about before I saw that Monstera, but now I see like a giant empty space in the tent, which is awesome. Like I have anthurium seedlings I want to grow down there, and the majority of my collection has been accumulated in this house, and I've never had a big declutter. I've just been accumulating, and even though I haven't been like making a conscious effort to purchase plants in the past year, I think there's just a lot of gifting going on between my friends and I that just the collection just keeps growing. And a lot of these plants that I've showed you are plants that I've acquired in the last 2 years. So over a year ago, a lot of these plants are plants that I don't feel the same about as when I first got them. Like my tastes have changed or whatever it may be. I might have just fallen out of love with them. I have a tendency to hoard plants or just keep too many propagations. It's a problem in my life in general, just holding on to things with sentimental value, like plants that were gifts or plants that, you know, spark a memory, or, you know, plants definitely do that. But I'm really glad that I did this whole declutter. 26 plants. I probably have a lot more plants to declutter after this video. I have a lot of succulents downstairs that would have taken too long to go through, and I don't know any of their names. I'm really glad I did this. I hope that it doesn't cause Charmaine too much stress. I'm sure like if her mom doesn't want to take it, then she can just put it in her lobby and people in her building will take it. I just don't want to cause her mom any more stress like before a road trip to have to like pack up a lot of plants. So hopefully this is not too intrusive. If you're planning on downsizing your collection this year, I do encourage you to, you know, take that step. If you find that your collection is causing you more stress than joy, if there are plants that, you know, you're keeping alive simply just to keep alive, but it's not, you know, giving back to you the joy that it once did, I encourage you to, you know, pass that plant on to the next person, because we don't need our collections stressing us out. We don't need our collections like taking over our lives. They should be giving back to us and joy what we give to them in plant care. And I really believe that we shouldn't, you know, keep plants just because we feel an obligation to. It's a part of your home, it's a part of your decor, it's a part of your life, and it's part of like what you need to do as a plant parent on a daily or weekly basis to take care of them. So if you're feeling some sort of way about getting rid of plants that you don't want to keep anymore, I would encourage you to not feel guilty about it. It's a part of collecting. Like these parts of our collection will come and go, and we shouldn't feel bad about saying goodbye to parts of our collections. I mean, at least I don't feel bad. I do feel a little bit bad, but I don't feel that bad. So don't try to make me feel bad, please. I hope that if anyone was feeling hesitant about doing a big downsize, I hope that this helps motivate you. I'm excited now to be able to have space to rearrange things so that I can actually film my updated plant room tour, because that's been on my list for a really long time. It's just been a little bit cluttered in here and too disorganized for me to be able to, you know, get plants in the places that they need to be in. So now I can finally get that going once I clear out some space. Clutter definitely adds to the stress in my life, and you know, the lack of time that I have in a day to clean and take care of plants, you know, it all snowballs for me. So I'm very, very excited to get things orderly again in here. I want to be able to walk into this room and everything has its place and it doesn't feel like overgrown, and I can see all the plants and they're not like all just like an overgrown jungle covering each other up. And I'm definitely rambling now, so I will say goodbye here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up. It would really help me out, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.